For the guest. Fuck that up. Bam, we're live.
Not that cool.
Bruce, Adam, Jeremy Eat World. Jeremy Eat World. Good morning. Ryan Moody on today. Explosive coach. I see. I went over to his Instagram and Dave does this thing where oh shoot, I forgot to send the link. Yes. I told him, hey, we go on in 4 minutes, but I never sent the link. Oh yeah, good idea to send the link. This is a cool clip. Let me see if I can share it from his Instagram. Oh shoot. Here we go. So Dave does this thing where he fields questions from YouTube. And I guess Ryan put a question in there. And Dave liked the question, so Dave answered it. Let's check it out.
Explosiveness. Starting off with Ryan Moody. Ryan is he's been around for a very long time, and he's the dude who used to have this jump up. He used to jump really high on boxes, and he had a little program that went with it, right? I think it's the same, Ryan.
Can you hear it?
If you were to create a combine of sorts to determine the most explosive athlete across any and all sport, what movements would you want to see tested? That's a great question, something I need to sit on and think. But interestingly, like to test explosiveness, starting off with Ryan Moody. Ryan is he's been around for a very long time, and
so he doesn't answer it. Okay, fine.
Jump really high on boxes.
Fine. We'll ask Ryan that. Then what he thinks should be what you should do to what tests would he use to find the most explosive. This dude's Instagram account has a lot of shit that speaks to me. Tight, low back. Try this. Hey, what's up, dude?
What is up, guys?
Good morning.
You guys hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Awesome. Morning.
Ryan, what would you oh, bye, Caleb. What would you do to what tests would you use to find the most explosive athlete?
Ah, I see what you did there.
You do.
Yeah, you took that the question I gave Castro, huh?
Yeah, did he I was just looking at the clip on your Instagram. He didn't answer it, right?
He didn't give a full answer. He said he wanted more time to think on it, and I haven't checked back to see if he's brought it back up, but I bet I could follow up with him.
But I am curious, what kind of movements would you use? How would you like to see the test?
So in the realm of explosive training, I'll say it like this. If we were to take athletes from any and all disciplines, right, to see which ones had the most explosive power, explosive output in general, we wouldn't want to necessarily just specifically test them in an area they're really good at. So I'll give you an example, like a swimmer, right? Their push off of the board going into the water, right? Them versus athletes of different sports, football, basketball, etc. They're going to have a lot more. They're going to have a lot of power coming off that board. And that's going to be an area they're really used to. So I would want to focus on jumping, but not necessarily specific to that sport. So I would focus on the 3 pathways that we typically use in explosive training. So jumping, sprinting, primarily short distances, and then lifting. And Dave actually brings up in the video that very explosive lifts like the snatch, the clean, would be examples of good testers. And I would argue absolutely power for both of those. I would test, like what you would see in the football combine, stuff like broad jump, even a sprint of sorts, maybe closer to like the 5-10-5. I like that. They do that in football as well. 40-yard dash is good, but also I would love to see the vertical jump from a standing position, running vertical leap, box jump. Seated box jump is pretty cool. It takes a lot of control and athleticism for that one. But yeah, there's a plethora of it, but I would want to be able to take athletes from any sport and put them in and just see who comes out on top, as consistently across the board as possible.
What's the time domain for explosive?
Good question. So when we're looking at explosive power, really what it's coming down to is your ability to react. So we're looking at the amortization phase, and that's that stretch shortening cycle of the musculature. So
what's the word you used again? Amortization?
Amortization. And I might be pronouncing that wrong. I've always just said it that way.
Sure. Fine. I like how you said it. I buy it.
I appreciate it. So an example of that would be, let's imagine we're doing a depth jump to a vertical leap.
Amortization phase is the time delay between overcoming the negative work of the eccentric pre-stretch to generating the force production and accelerating the muscle contraction and the elastic recoil in the direction of the plyometric movement. Is that so? Sorry to interrupt you. So
you're good.
If I jump down off a box, let's say I'm on a 12-inch box and I jump down, that amortization phase is the time it takes me before I'm ready to jump again.
So it's basically, so the eccentric piece of the phase, how long it takes you to go from the eccentric phase to the concentric phase, right? So that lapse of time in between there, where you go from basically landing and loading to taking off again, is the amortization phase. The less time it takes you to do that, and if you were to jump vertically after that, the total height that you're able to clear, right, would be how explosive you are. So the faster you can do that with a lot of power, the more explosive you are. So that time domain can change depending on what the actual movement is.
Okay. Oh, I like this. Good picture, Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb's killing it right now.
Hey, and some shit like if you were to do an explosive curl, you can't even do the next one until you open your arm back up again.
Right.
Jumping, you don't have to do that, right?
Right. Well, yeah. So you're always going to go into a loaded position when you're jumping. So imagine if you're standing in front of a box, right, in a workout, that position that you go into where you bend forward and your arms go back, that's a loaded phase. In the seminars that I teach, we literally call that load. And so we'll actually cue that load, and then the entire class will go into that position. So across the board, when you go into that phase, you are loading in general. With the curl, it's a little bit different, right? Because when we go to an eccentric, like we're in this extended position, when we're here, that the motion, it can be explosive. However, you're not really doing a whole lot of this returning position when you jump. You do land, but it's very short. I don't know how to describe it. I don't think the curl would be the best example to use.
One. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why I chose it. It doesn't. But you could be explosive with the curl.
Yeah, I mean, you could be explosive with a curl by doing banded curls, just utilizing bands, right? And doing that at a much faster rate. Plus, when you do banded work anyways, at a faster rate, at a higher repetition, you tend to target ligaments into tendons, fascia, and that actually aids in building our framework, which is something we teach about in the seminar as well.
I read this book. I'm really all over the place. I apologize.
Yeah,
I read this book where this guy, they called him like Speedy Gonzalez or something. It's probably racist. And he was a ping pong player from the UK, and he played in a shed where he couldn't get the proper distance away from the table.
Oh, interesting.
So he was forced to play with like his hips on the table, and that's how he played his first 6 years of ping pong, which made his reaction time like twice as fast as everyone else's reaction time in the ping pong world, because he couldn't get away from the table. So I'm guessing that somewhere in the definition of explosiveness, he was having like 4 or 5 explosions simultaneously, like hip position, wrist position, rotation.
Not only that, he optimized the range of motion in which he had to work in, right? So which is amazing. So if you think about it, like if I were to do a quarter squat with 405 pounds, I could do that pretty easily and still be very fast and efficient with it. Now, if you were to ask me to go full depth, right, now it's going to slow down because of the distance in which I have to travel. I won't be as efficient. Does that mean that I can't be as fast? No, I can train into that position to be fast out of the hole with 405 in my back. However, in that shorter range of motion, if I become very optimal with it, I can be very explosive with that weight. And another way to look at this is, let's go to the seated box jump. Now, imagine if you were to take a box and turn it down to, like, I don't know, maybe you have a 12 or 18 inch box. That's a really deep seated position to be in and to be able to jump out of. Now, the delay it takes for me to go from here to hip extension and then recoiling, right? That first initial piece, that might take a while, right? To be able to get to this, and that, for it to be any bit explosive, it actually might look delayed and slow. Yeah. Now, if I were to sit on a 30-inch box, right, which looks like I'm sitting on a bar stool, my ability to hit hip extension and recoil is a lot faster. Now, the big piece in that is I've got to be able to utilize that height of the body, or that angle of the hips, and produce as much power as possible. So yes, could I create more power from a deeper angle? Absolutely. But if I don't have that ability all the way down to the depth of angle, there you go, just like that. So when you see him go down, right? So he's below parallel. He has a fast hip recoil, and then his hips are coming back pretty quick in his landing position. So what we're looking for here is, as he's coming off that low box, we want those hips to come off that box and hit extension fast. If they're slow, then we need to raise the height of the box so they're more efficient at a higher height, and then work them down eventually so they have more range of motion they can pull that power from, if that makes sense. So that kind of goes to the
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Hey, when you see that, do you not like that he doesn't open his hip all the way?
Caleb, can you hit it one more time for me, please?
Or is that something you do depend on how high you're jumping? So
yeah, exactly. If it was right now, the height that he's at, he's probably not using a ton of his explosive ability, his power output, because he knows he can hit that height probably fairly easily. Now, if we were to take that box and make it like 45, 50 inches for him, you might see that action happen. However, that hip action is going to hit extension really fast, and that recoil is going to be possibly even faster to get that position. Because box jumping is not just power output; it's also range of motion, or basically mobility.
Is there a direct relationship? Why do people want to be more explosive? Is there a direct relationship with how strong you can become?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Is it guaranteed?
Guaranteed. That's hard. There's
for instance, you don't become necessarily strong. If we look at the ping pong player, he might not becoming. He might even actually becoming weaker with his explosiveness, right? Because there's that repetitive metabolic component to it. He's doing that over and over and over and over and over, to where if we just train a guy to do that, let's say just to do that swing with, I don't know, a 20-pound paddle, and he only does it once every 5 minutes, he would get stronger.
Yeah, he would.
But not as efficient at the sport.
Right.
Or even a basketball player, right? I mean, this guy's got to jump a shitload of times, so he might not be as strong as the guy who's the Olympic weightlifter. But it is also weird that those Olympic weightlifters, when you see them jump, you know what I mean? Like the guy who's, I'm sure you've seen it, the guy who's 5'4", 205, but he could dunk from a vertical. And you're like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. Well, if you think about it, right? So when we do a standing vertical leap, we have a ton of power output, right? That's something that's been measured time and time again in research. Now imagine pulling a heavy load from the floor, and the amount of force or power output that you have to put in the floor, and jump with it, right? And so your hips are getting used to basically moving a really heavy object really quickly. So yeah, when you brought up that this example, this is exactly what I thought about. I think this was either in Korea or Japan. Great video, super impressive.
Yeah, that guy was huge. That second guy.
Yeah,
but he doesn't get. But that he probably doesn't have a lot of those, right? He has a couple of those in him, and he's done. Whereas the basketball player's got he's got to have 100 in him for the game, right?
I would think so. I honestly can't speak to that. I haven't had enough experience with Olympic weightlifters doing box jumps per se, like this example, to know where kind of their fatigue rate sets in. But in all reality, we all at some point have a fatigue rate with jumping, especially higher heights, right? So it's like saying, Sevan, how many times can you pull 90+% of your deadlift max?
Once.
Right.
Before I snap in half. Pull that 135 and I'm toast.
The interesting thing too is just to add to this, the power output piece, right? So I trained at Westside Barbell under Louie for a long time, for years. I'd go out there and live out there for a while. And athletes like AJ Roberts, who's an all-time world record holder, I believe in the 308 class. As an example, around 300 pounds, I believe he told me
there's a 300-pound weight class.
It's yeah, I don't know what the super heavyweight class is.
It's like in the UFC, like if you're over 265, you can't play.
Right.
It's just crazy that in this sport there's a 308-pound.
Oh yeah, big dudes. Like every time I walked into Westside, in the mornings when the guys were there training, I looked like a 14-year-old girl walking in there compared to them. They're massive human beings, incredible people as well. But yeah, AJ, I believe he told me he had about a 50-inch box jump at 308. So that's really impressive. And I believe he squatted at least around 1100.
It's weird for me to think of you in Westside Barbell because I think of those gentlemen as I just think of you as being with the athletes who are I picture you being in a room with like those yellow ladders you throw out on the floor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the scene. That's the scene I kind of picture you in. Training people who are need to be super agile, but also really big. And when I think of Westside Barbell, I don't think of I think of more bulldozers. Like you know what I mean? Like you. How did you end up there? How did you end up there?
So you may recall, and you
Were
actually
you coaching there or just training there?
No, not coaching there. I was only training there. I was working with Louie one-on-one. Okay. So I don't actually know if you were at this or if you were filming this. Very possible. The video where Boz is there at Westside and he's doing the kneeling jumps.
Yeah, I did not go, unfortunately.
Oh, you didn't go? Okay. So I saw that video. This was right before Heber filmed the little CrossFit HQ short on me called 56 Inches to Fame. And I saw that video of Boz and I was like, okay, this is really cool. I don't know who this crazy, bulldog looking guy is that's coaching him, but I want to learn from him. And so it wasn't that long after I broke the first world record that I emailed Louie or emailed Westside. I didn't realize Louie was the one replying to the emails. And I said, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'd like to be able to do. I feel like I'm hitting kind of a ceiling and I believe you can help get me through that ceiling. And in so many words, paraphrasing, of course, Louie basically said, how soon can you get here? That was 2012 was the first time. And then a few months later, I went out there. I was teaching some seminars out in the area anyways. And so stopped in for several days to work with Louie. And he became a major force in my life, kind of like a grandfather figure in a way. And I still get a little bit emotional when I talk about him. Because he played that role in my life. But he absolutely changed the trajectory of my career with everything that he taught me.
Please. Tell me, explain.
So at that point, I had broken, when I finally met with him, I had broken a couple world records and I was already teaching seminars.
Those world records. Tell me, which ones had you broken?
So at the time I had broken the standing box jump world record, which was originally held by Jonas Hussum of Denmark, I believe. So I broke that at 56 inches.
And describe that to me. That's when you're sitting on a box and then someone says,
standing.
go.
No,
Okay.
standing. Standing position. and jumping, basically jumping, tucking, and landing on top of 56 inches and then standing vertical, right? And then the other variation that I broken early on was the running box jump, which I broke at back then. I think it was like 67, 68 and a half inches, something like that. So it'd be like 5'8.5".
So running gives you gave you 11 or 12 inches more.
At that time, yes.
Yeah.
The highest I ever did from a standing position at the best of my career was 65 inches. So that's 5'5". And the best running variation that I ever did was 74 inches. I have a video of me attempting 74 inches online from back in the day at CrossFit 801 with Miranda Alcaraz and Tyson Oldroyd, but I don't have the one of me actually landing it later in life. But 74 inches is my highest.
I won't forget that the direction we were going. I'll get us back on Louie, but let me ask
You're
you this real quick. When you did 56,
yes,
was 65 possible?
Back then, I didn't think so. I thought 60 inches to 62 inches would have been like the cap. I was in school at the time at the University of Utah for exercise sports science, and I always had the question in the back of my mind: is it possible for a human being to jump and land their own height from a standing position? Which is something you really only see in the animal kingdom, and in the animal kingdom, outside of human beings, right? They can do far more than that from their own height. But it wasn't until I met with Louie where Louie explained at the time the science behind. He actually got a physics professor from Ohio State University on the phone and explained the science as to how it is possible.
Wow.
And the person that I think is going to do it is a young gun by the name of Christopher Spell. He holds a lot of the world records currently. He'd actually be a great one to have on your show in the future too. Guy's amazing. Amazing.
Have you ever talked to Romanoff, the pose guy?
No, I've never talked to him. I've watched videos from him. I remember the video with him, Louie, and was it Bergner? Someone else was in there. Oh, Ripito? I don't know. The video where they had like a conversation between like three big names.
Yeah.
You remember?
There was this one time I did an interview with him, and I was talking to him about the fastest time for the mile. This is a little off subject, but he basically just said it's just there's an angle that a human being can reach leaning forward, and that's the fastest a human being could possibly run, and then you just figure out how long it takes him to go to a mile. And I forget what he said, but I really liked his thought process on that.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. It really is. The more you get into the mechanics of the body and what human potential is, or what is possible, it's actually kind of crazy. When you start looking into stuff like the importance of like the Golgi tendon organs and how they play a role as like the governors of the body, it makes me wonder if we could turn those off in a safe way. What could we do? What
was the word used? The Goldie who? What?
I believe it's called the Golgi tendon organ or organs. Basically, it's like a governor that keeps us from. This is going back to my my exercise sports science days. It's like a governor that basically keeps us from shredding. Yeah, what does it say? Junction tendon, tendon stretch muscle. Yeah, basically keeps it from like ripping off the bone.
God, I was really hoping that it was found like in the ovaries and in the testicles. So that there would be some validity, like you don't have the balls, you don't have the ovaries to do that. God, I was so hoping it would be in there. There'd be some like, what's that called? Etymology to it like that. Damn. Okay, so you go to Westside, and you want to learn to, you want to steal this guy's mind. You're there to get into his brain and see what specifically on the goal of jumping higher.
Yeah, my sole purpose there was to break world records. Obviously, Louie cares about that. And Louie had said at one point, he said, out of all, I've got athletes to jump close to or around where you've jumped after working with me. I've never worked with someone who's already jumping higher than that that hasn't already worked with me. And so he was, I asked him one day to quote him. I said, Louie, when it comes to what you're doing with me here, because we only train 2 days a week, Mondays and Fridays, deadlift day, squat day. I didn't need to be there on bench day. And then I would ask him, I was like, hey, if someone were to ask me, hey, what are you doing at Westside? Would I tell him, oh, I'm just basically doing conjugate? And he's like, well, yeah. But he said, I dream up shit for you to do at night. Oh. And so we were really pushing the envelope there of an area that he was also still creating and learning and tweaking. So yeah, really crazy experience. And I try to go back once a year and try to spend anywhere from a few weeks to a few months there. And I actually was lucky enough to stay at this lady's house. Her name's Lisa. She let me stay in her basement so I could train at Westside. And I slept on a mattress on the floor, and I would mow her lawn as a means of like exchange for me being able to stay there.
Is that a metaphor?
That's a reality. That's what I used to do.
You actually, there was a lawnmower. When you say mow,
yep.
Okay, just checking. Very clear. I don't want to get you in any trouble.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
So, you were his, you were kind of his lab rat.
Yes.
And he was a scientist. He.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you?
I would argue, Sevan, that anyone that walked through that door was his lab rat in a way that he was like, you have the potential. I'm going to take that potential and I'm going to see just how far we can take it. And I'm going to try some crazy stuff with you, stuff that you're probably not going to want to do it at times. I mean, I remember talking with AJ Roberts before I left for the first time to meet with Louie, and I said, any advice? And he says, do what Louie says. Don't go against the grain. There's going to be points where you're not going to trust what he's saying. Just do what he says. So I did.
Can you think of anything in particular that he suggested you do that you were like, I don't know, am I at the wrong spot? Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not meant for this.
So I remember after a squat day, I'm in a pair of squat briefs, and
squat
just kind of.
Those are like special shorts for squatting.
Yeah, for powerlifting. Yeah. So it would be geared lifting essentially. Just single ply, so they're fairly malleable, they're bendable. Anyways, I'm just kind of walking around. It's like walking around in a diaper. Feels really, really weird. And Louie had a box at the gym at the time near the squat rack that was 42 inches, just those old school metal boxes with the rubber top on it. Yeah, there you go. Yep, that's basically exactly what I was wearing.
Oh, that looks horrible.
Yeah, they're interesting. So I was walking past the 42-inch box, and Louie's like, hey, come here. And so I'm like, okay, what's up? And he goes, sit down on like this low box, and I want you to do a seated box jump onto the 42-inch box. And so I like start trying to shimmy out of my squat briefs, and he's like, no, leave them on. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, leave them on. And you wear something underneath it? There's other shorts underneath it? Like sliders.
Okay.
Right. They're like
compression shorts are underneath.
Yeah. You want something because they're hard to get in and out of. You can see videos and pictures of people like putting them on the J hook of a squat rack and then putting their entire body weight into it just to be able to get into it. Oh, like how you get a little kid dressed in a wetsuit. Yeah, basically.
Okay. That's all I know. Yep.
So the thing about briefs, right? The way to think about it is when you're going down into the bottom of the squat with the briefs, they're basically storing some kinetic energy. And so as you're coming out of the hole, they actually assist you, right? But they're really constricting and they're really weird to walk around in. You don't feel very free and mobile in them. And I remember I kept trying to jump and I couldn't because I was freaked out because if your briefs, like if you bend too far forward in the briefs, obviously, especially if you had load on your back for like a back squat, it can kind of fold you in half and drop you forward. And so that's not going to go well for jumping.
Right.
And I kept like getting in my head and Louie got like this close to my face. And just to quote him, he said, jump, motherfucker. And I scared the crap out of me. And so I did. And as I jumped, that little bit of like kinetic energy that came from the briefs, it was like, I guess one way to think about it is, like cheerleaders where they take the cheerleader and they prop up and then they push up higher, right, with the cheerleader. Yeah. It was like that. It was crazy. So it was a weird
last
feeling.
Inch or two where you thought you were going to stop, you even went another inch or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a little
exactly. And with ease and under a lot of fatigue. But yeah.
God, you must have been pleasantly surprised when that happened.
Very. Louie just walked away shaking his head. And Tom, I believe, said, "You'll listen to Louie next time, won't you?" And I was like, "Yep, 100%." But it was scary.
Had anyone else you'd never seen anyone else do that before?
No, that was my first introduction to squat briefs in general. I didn't even know what those were until he gave me a pair.
I imagine that they're like the way you showed the picture of them, that they look so thick, like canvasy, like that you almost felt like they were going to impede your jumping, like as much as they're supposed to help you, that there could be like material rubbing against material that at the last minute holds you back or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and in the world of box jumping, there is limitation to what you can do in them because of that exact reason. So I think the highest I've ever done in briefs was like 54 inches. But then after that, it becomes difficult because the position you have to get into for higher heights, it becomes impeded pretty quickly. What
were the biggest changes you saw after working with him?
Like in jumping,
you see body composition change? Say that again.
Like any changes in general?
Yeah, just
jumping.
Maybe what you thought about physical activity, what you thought about yourself, what your maybe more superficially, how your body composition changed, how your jumps changed, how
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So a lot changed for me at Westside. It was like a veil was lifted for me to another world, and because of that experience, like let's be clear. I was just grateful every day that I got to train there because, as you know, that is a invite only gym, and they take that extremely seriously. I remember when I walked in the first day, just as an example of this, I walked in the first day, and he had told me to come in at like 8:15, 8:30 or something like that, partway into the squat session of the men and the women's workouts, and it says on the door, like if you weren't invited by owner and founder Louie Simmons, you're not welcome, and we'll remove you. And I walk in, and people stop and look at me, and I'm like, I mean, we're talking massive human beings, right?
Right.
Scary individuals. And I put my hands up, and I was like, I swear I have an appointment. And I hear Louie come from where the women's side is on the other side of the wall, come over, and basically like, who the fuck is here? And I'm like, I'm your jumper, Ryan. I'm your jumper. And he's like, oh, come here. And but yeah, so they don't mess around.
Is there a hazing process?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that because
really there weren't guys who were assholes to you, and it took like 6 months before they'd like talk to you. That's
so
by hazing. Kind of.
I see what you're saying now.
Don't put your shit on my bench, or don't look at me when I work out. Like guys who just like are testing you.
It's possible that happens amongst the powerlifters that are in the powerlifting group, right? However, if you're invited to Westside, my understanding has always been if Louie invited you, you are part of the crew. You not necessarily part of the powerlifting crew, but you're part of Westside, and so you have that respect. You're there for a reason. You're there for a purpose.
I condone a healthy amount of hazing.
Oh no, there's.
You know what I mean? Like just in all environments, I condone hazing.
Well, I mean, the other piece of that coin is I wasn't allowed to train with the men. I'm not strong enough. I was only allowed to train with the women, and
the other dudes who were kind of relegated to that rule. No, just you.
Yep,
that's crazy too.
Yep, because just to be able to train there as a man, you had to hit certain numbers.
Amongst us mortals, savage. It's funny to think it's like you were Aquaman. Hey, you're no fucking Superman. Just get back in the water. You're just Aquaman.
I mean, I remember my first day squatting with the women. Every time it was my turn, they're taking off multiple 45s for box squatting, and I'm just sitting here going, like, I'm getting crushed by like 135 and bands. And these women are, they have 300, 400 pounds on the bar with bands, crushing it. It was amazing. Yeah. It was a very humbling experience. So I learned a lot about what kind of strength is actually out there in the world. Because I thought I was strong. At the time, I was pulling like 585 on a deadlift, squatting at the time like 365, and I weighed about 185 pounds. And by the time I left Westside, after spending 2 months there, I pulled 655 at 188, and I was squatting 425.
And that was still just that. Those are the women's weights.
Yeah, basically. I don't know about on deadlift. Deadlift is like the only one that I had that was any bit near the entry level for those men, just to be allowed to work out on that side.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so that the veil that was lifted that you spoke about was the human capacity. You were like, oh shit, humans are capable of a ton of shit.
Yeah, not just human capacity, but the education piece was a side you don't get taught in school. You don't. I mean, a lot of what Louie was reading, like, I don't know, like 100 books a year. The guy was like a savant. The guy was brilliant. And Louie took obviously a lot in conjugate from, Soviet Russia. And so I was like walking around with him and training with him, coaching me. It was like, I don't know, it was like walking around with like a history book mixed with exercise, sports science, mixed with like an almanac almost. I don't know, an encyclopedia. Like it was amazing. I used to sit in his office with him between our sessions for like 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
And just listen to him just talk and teach me things. And so that veil was lifted too, because I was like, holy crap, there's so much out there in the world that I just didn't know. And I had the education for what I was doing. So to have him come in and share this, it rocked my world. I was like, I don't know squat. So
how's my voice now, guys? I don't know what it could be that made this. Someone wrote in the comments that they don't hear me so well today. I got my mouth right on the mic. How did he end up? He just passed away recently, right? In the last 6 months.
I believe it was in February.
And he was no spring chicken, right? He was 75 or something.
Yeah. I believe he was turning 74 or 75 this
Still
year
too
in
young,
October. Huh? Yeah. Louie was going through a lot health wise. Have you watched Westside vs. the World, the documentary?
No, I haven't. Good.
Oh, please go watch it, man.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'll definitely watch it.
Yep. 74. Yeah.
Did you ever see signs of his did he smoke cigarettes?
If he did, never around me. I never saw
it.
I used to ride around with him in his Jeep at the time, and I went to his house with him and his wife Doris to have like spaghetti dinners and stuff like that. And I never saw anything like that. The thing is, like, if Louie was in pain, I don't think he's ever going to show it or tell you. I remember being there as an example one day. I was in town visiting. I had a few days to train there, and I was watching Louie squat. And it was,
you would see him train.
Yeah. And I was watching him squat, and I noticed his like knee looked like it was like jelly. And I was like, "What is going on with his knee? It's like swollen." And I was like, as he's squatting, I'm like, "Lou, what's going on with your knee?" And I can't remember exactly, but I swear he said it was something with his ACL. And he said, "Yeah, it's just really annoying. I just drain my knee every night."
Oh.
And he's still squatting with a lot of weight at the time,
and he's probably
69
performing
years
that
old.
Procedure himself, right? He's probably sticking. Yeah.
I would not be surprised. Yeah.
Okay. He's a savage.
Louie is something else. That's the thing is, like, in his later years, my understanding is he got a lot softer. And so that's a lot of what I saw in my experience with him. But
you mean more grandfather by softer? You mean just more sentimental, more grandfathery, more touchy-feely? Like,
yes. Yeah. And those gold plates, I believe, are 100 pounds each. He squatted, 920. I think he was 50 years old when he did that.
Oh, and he was wearing those funky shorts.
Yeah, he's wearing the briefs. Yeah.
Did he create those?
I don't think so. He created a lot of stuff, though. A lot of
Travis Bellinghouse says, what's he saying down here? A buddy of mine got to visit Louie's gym, and he said it was unreal what they would put people through on the belt squat just to have an opportunity to train there. I
totally forgot. Yeah. The belt squat, man, that was like
That's where the belt goes through a hole in the floor, and you're standing.
Yeah,
the weights
it's
are underneath you somewhere.
Well, there's a few variations. The one that I was on, basically it had a pulley system that went into the floor platform, and that went up to kind of like what you would see on a lat pull down machine, right, with a pulley system. And then they had plates they would throw on it, and they would throw bands on it too, and it would be attached to a belt around your hips, right? And you'd be marching or doing different things. Yeah, that's a variation. Yep. And
is that the Rogue site?
Yeah.
Dear Bill and Katie, I don't know. I can't. Where the fuck would I put that? What if someone sent that to you? I would send that to someone I hated. Who has like a one-car garage.
Dude, they would beat you up. Like there's some videos with Joe Lasco, who coached at Westside for a long time, working with, I believe it was Christy Aramo O'Connell. And he's talking to her, and you can tell she's just getting her butt kicked. But they like almost chuckle at it. They're like, no, keep going. Let's go. You know, they push you. They push you a lot.
What was the movement she was doing that they were crushing?
So she was on a belt squat. I believe she was holding a medicine ball. I could be wrong. And going through it, doing like a march or something. And you could tell like she was hitting that limit. And yeah, it's interesting.
Was the was not the point of this podcast, by the way. Was the you know that phrase, if you're not cheating, you're not trying?
Uh-huh.
You know that phrase? And recently my tennis coach, or my kid's tennis coach, wow. My kid's tennis coach said to me, you know,
torture. That's Joe in the background. That's Joe Lasco. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wish once I could see your kid try to cheat, because in tennis, like everyone calls their own line shots, right? And he said there's just like my kid's just missing that killer instinct to win at all costs. And he's so fucking good, but man, there's like he's just. And it was kind of like a metaphor. He didn't really want my kid to be a cheater, but he wanted to see like a little more competitiveness in him, I guess. Was there that feeling at Westside around performance enhancing drugs that if you like, this was a place for people who were going like, hey, this is to push your hardest, and if you're not taking performance enhancing drugs, you're not you're obviously not serious about it. Was there any of that?
So I spent in private. Like
Christy, I don't think she's on anything, but then I think she goes there, and then automatically there's going, because they didn't care if you knew they were on shit, right? That place, there was no stigma around it, right?
Yeah, well,
if you're not doing it, you're not trying, is kind of what I'm saying.
They weren't like walking around the gym and being like, "Hey, Ryan, you know, I'm so and so, I'm on steroids." You know, they weren't like very out about it per se. It was something that's kind of an underlying thing that's known for the most part. Not that everyone, I don't want to sit there and put a blanket and say everyone absolutely was, because I can't say that. I don't know that. Anytime I had in-depth conversations around steroids in general, PEDs in general, was with Louie in his office. And
he was open about it, right?
I think Louie said, oh man, I don't know if it was in an interview, maybe it was with Joe Rogan. I believe he said he's been on, at that time, steroids for like 40, 45 years straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a big believer in them.
But there was, but
I was never pressured. It was never, hey, like we could make you jump higher if you took something. That was never.
You weren't. Okay.
No, that was never a conversation.
Because I see, I think Joe's pretty, speaking of Joe Rogan, I think he's pretty open about it. You see now it's like tons of people are open about it. My biggest sponsor is a testosterone replacement therapy clinic, California Hormones.
Oh yeah, with Hiller.
Yeah, exactly. And now Hiller's gonna do this experiment we're all gonna get to see on the internet. There's tons of people who are coming out who are saying they were suicidal and they got on testosterone replacement therapy and they got rid of all their psychiatric meds, and they're like, holy shit, this is the way, man. So I was just wondering if there was that stigma there, but obviously Christy didn't care, and she sure as fuck doesn't look like she's on anything.
Right. And that's the thing, like there was never a stigma, there was never pushed or pressured or otherwise. We could speculate that if I was like, Louie, I want to get on a cycle, that Louie would be like, okay, I can set you up with someone to take care of that, right?
Yeah, I know a doctor who.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all speculation. And on the steroid topic in general, I'm not anti-steroid.
Right.
I'm actually very, very, and a lot of this comes from the time I've spent with Louie and learning about it. But I'm very interested to see what happens with Hiller. Like, I love that he's doing this. Like, I'm so excited. Yeah.
Me too.
So
the problem with all of the stuff from fucking anything anyone all of us do as humans is when we're put in the position to force to lie.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that sucks. It's like, I mean, I remember 20 years ago when there were no studies, or 30 years ago there were no studies on marijuana, and it's like fucking just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, there's so much
like,
connected to shame because it's moral.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah. So I actually had I've spent time training at Super Training gym with Mark Bell, and
that's in California. Is that in Sacramento?
That's Sacramento. So that's where I got a seminar coming up at Iron Mile at Ben Alderman's gym in December. That's what I was going to invite you to.
He's awesome, Ben Alderman.
Oh yeah. Oh, the Alderman family is amazing.
Yeah, what great people.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, if you want to come up to Sacramento, man, feel free. Last time Mark and Silent Mike came up for that, and I did a podcast with them. But I had a conversation with Mark privately at one point, and because Mark's open about it, he talks about it in his social media. And I was like, Mark, I want to understand your thoughts on people getting on steroids, and do you recommend it? And he said, at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want to do. The real question is not should I get on or not. The question is, if someone asks me if I'm on, where's my morality around saying yes or no? Yeah. That's what it comes down to, because the shame that's attached to lying about something, right? That's a heavy to carry.
That's the same. That's the same thing with what Greg used to say about sponsorships. I will take Marlboro cigarettes as the title sponsor for the CrossFit Games. I will not tell you. I will also tell you that smoking is fucking stupid and it'll kill you. And that was where we had the contention with Reebok. There was a $350 million 10-year deal, and 3 months into the deal, they released some shoes saying that they made your butt firmer. It was like a shoe with like and Greg fucking tore him a new one publicly for it. And they're like, "What are you doing? We're partners." He goes, "We're not partners. You give me money." Like to put your name on my athletes. Like, I'm not lying for it. There's nowhere in here that says I can't lie. I have to lie for you.
Right.
It's like, Coke, bring your shit, but we're also gonna use some of your money to tell people how bad your shit is.
Yeah.
And it's what Mark's saying. Like, are you gonna be forced to lie?
Yeah.
And that's a huge burden.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once you reach that fork in the road, the decision that you make in there stays with you, right?
Yeah.
And it can come back to haunt you later, i.e., what's his face? Anyone that's ever lied about steroids and got caught later. We'll just say it like that.
Right. The
Armstrong.
Even the honesty, even the dishonesty around what the real problem with it is bad for the conversation. What you're pointing out, there's so many things like that in life. Smoking's the same way. It's kind of the inverted. They tell you smoking's bad for you. The real problem is that once you touch nicotine, you're going to want it your whole life. You don't ever. Same with heroin. It's not. What's worse than the addiction is now you try heroin when you're 17, and when you're 70, you still want to get it back. It's like someone needs to tell the kids that. Like, don't. Like, it's going to burden your brain. You don't want your brain burdened.
It's getting into the reward system, right? That we have. Yeah. Right. So dopamine, et cetera, and how that can have effect, and it can actually change the chemistry of your brain. It can affect the gray matter in your brain.
I wondered, this is way off subject, but I wondered, I was thinking, like, I have really no relationship with porn. And I hear about porn addiction now, and I kind of can't even fathom it. I just wonder, is that like someone who's like, it's 2:00 in the afternoon and you're going to take a shit and you take your phone with you so you can like watch some, like, I'm trying to think what that looks like. Cause my only relationship with porn my whole life was like when I traveled, if I went to a hotel, like maybe I'd look at some porn on my phone. I would never even buy porn. I don't need much, like 20 seconds. I'm good. I had my fill. Thank you. But like, in my day-to-day So I was thinking about that too, in terms of like throwing that in there with cigarettes. Like, you shouldn't even never look at porn until maybe like you're over 25. I wonder if the people who are addicted to porn and to cigarettes and to heroin, and heroin might be a little different, nicotine, but I wonder if the longer you can go without experiencing these things that are super crazy stimulating, because I mean that's the deal with porn, right? It's just it just fucking overwhelms you.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's like no one should have a cell phone until they're 25.
So
do you have kids?
I don't have any that I'm aware of. No.
Okay. Fair answer.
Yeah, not married, never been married, no kids. Would love that in the future. Hopefully one day when I'm older. Okay, so getting into your question.
Yeah, do you have any comments, Mr. Explosive Coach Ryan Moody, on porn?
Actually, I do.
Okay.
So I'm an
put a
LP.
cell phone playing porn at a really high shelf, and that will increase your jumping. Is that your?
Yeah, that's actually, you already took it from me. Let's start that seminar next week. So I'm an LPCA. I'm a licensed professional counselor associate. And the clinic that I'm at, Healing and Recovery, here in Lewisville, Texas, we actually work with sex and porn addiction.
So it's real.
Clients. Yeah. Now, within the academic world, there is a hard line. There's two sides, if you will, right? One, that this is freeing expression, and it can be something that is beneficial for people as an outlet. On the other half, you have individuals that are like are myself. I'll speak for myself. That is against it, and it is damaging not just to the individual, but it's damaging to spouse, significant other, through betrayal trauma, and it reduces our ability to connect. And so, addictions in general, when we start to think about something that is addictive, right? So there's a reward system that's in place there. But the other piece is if something is addictive, that I guess we could say addiction comes down to something that we are doing, or behavior, et cetera, or use of a substance that we want to stop doing, but we can't. We're struggling to be able to do that, right? And so it's impeding our functionality. And so that's where, as you look at that definition, some people could go, well, it's not impeding my functionality, so therefore, for me, it's not an addiction, et cetera. What addiction really comes down to is it's a disorder of connection, right? And that's one of the things that we focus on here is connecting with self and connecting with others. Because oftentimes when, using porn as an example, when there's that desire, that craving for porn, there's actually an underlying need that's there. However, with the feeling that's associated, we're not sure what to do with the feelings that are coming up. And so we're like, oh, I'll just go to escape. I need this. I need porn because it's going to help me feel a certain way, powerful. It's going to make me feel desired. It's going to make me XYZ,
Wait,
right?
Let me just say one thing real quick. Yeah. When I think of porn, I just think of it as a means to an end, just to masturbate, ejaculate, and go to bed. Is that how everyone thinks of it? Is that like the...
No, for some people, it's their only.
Like someone would actually watch. Sorry, go ahead.
Connection. It can be, for some individuals, it can be their only form of like sexual connection. That might be all that they know. And so it can vary from person to person as to what it does for them. So one of the things that we ask when individuals come in with a porn addiction or sex addiction is we say, well, it feels great, right? And there's some good effects that can come from it in the moment. So why would you stop? Why do you want to stop, right? Because there is a reason for them associated with it. Well, the shame that I feel afterwards, or like it's damaging my relationship, or it's something I've had to hide for years and years and years, or it's because I have these feelings that come up for me and I don't know what to do with them, and I just feel like, okay, I just need a quick escape. I just need a quick escape so I can, end to a mean and I can move on from that feeling. I don't have to feel that nasty feeling anymore, right? Or that heavy feeling anymore. So it'll vary.
Give me an example of that. I don't understand that part. You're saying that.
Which piece?
Like, what would you be trying to escape from? What would porn, like, you want to smoke a cigarette, but instead of smoking your cigarette, you're trying to quit smoking, you put in some porn, or you're having memories of your dad beating you as a kid, so you watch some porn to avoid it. Like,
Yeah.
You're saying
Yeah,
that people
even
watch
stress.
porn like a coping mechanism?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
No.
Holy shit.
No,
When I
that's
think
not
of
to
it,
say it's the only way, or
right.
the only reason, right?
Well, the simple way that I used to think of addiction, I think it was taught to me in high school or something, is like if alcohol was always used. If something happens when you're drunk that you regret, then you're addicted. So let's say you're driving when you're drunk and you hit someone or kill someone or you get arrested and you go to jail. Then it's like, hey, dude, you have a problem. It's making you make bad choices. And so so if you were watching porn and you were always worried about getting caught watching porn, then it's like sort of an addiction. It's that's when those are some of the signs, the red flags that like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
Well, anything
Fucking with your life
is associated with shame, right? There's a deeper story there, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why that shame even comes up to begin with, because could we run into individuals that feel zero shame when they look at porn? Absolutely. Right. However, it's more or less that underlying story, which goes down typically to family of origin. And so when you're looking at that, typically there's a belief that someone has about themselves. An example would be, man, I never felt good enough for my dad. I never felt right. And so that feeling of like powerlessness, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, we can go to find other things that stimulate us, that give us that dopamine hit, that for a moment we feel good. Right. So we're escaping that thought process of, man, I'm just never good enough for my dad. You know, I'm not worthy.
And the person might not even know that, right?
Right. So you get in like a shame cycle. So you feel these heavy emotions that you don't want to feel. And then that can lead to this desire to, well, I don't know what to do with this. I don't want to keep feeling this. So then from that piece, we go into, okay, well, I need to get away from it. Well, there's a list of addictive things that we can do. Gambling, porn, alcohol, drugs, et cetera, right? Retail therapy, as they call it, right? Where people are going out and they're spending. And then what happens is afterwards, we have that buyer's remorse. If we're going through the retail therapy, like, man, I just spent all that money on that. Why did I do that? I don't even have the money to be spending right now. I'm blowing up my debt right now. This is horrible. Right. Then we go into shame. Well, the moment we go back into shame, it takes us right back into that cycle again. The only way to really start to separate from that is we need to connect with what's actually going on with us. Yeah. And so to rise above that, you want to think, okay, I have these butt kickers, these major feelings that come up for me. Maybe it's depression, maybe it's anger, maybe it's worthlessness, powerlessness. And I need to sit with that feeling a little bit to see what it's even connected to for me, because there's a need there, right? Yeah. So, okay, I'm bored, right? That can be a butt kicker for someone. I feel bored, so I'm gonna look at porn, right? Okay, well, I'm bored. What do I actually need? Well, I need to feel like I'm doing something fulfilling. Yeah. Right? Okay, so how do we resolve that need appropriately? Well, I could go do something productive, or I could connect with myself. I could do something I enjoy for me that fills my tank. For me, that might, like, one of the things I love to do every day is I walk 4.5 miles, nice, easy pace. I just go out and walk and listen to podcasts, listen to you, listen to music, etc. Right? And I do that, and that's a very productive means for me. Yeah. And it's self-care. Or I connect with other human beings. I connect with other people. We as human beings are social creatures. We crave connection, right? And so it's the more we connect with ourselves, the more we can fill up our tank. The more that we connect with others, the more we can really get that tank to feel really full and fulfilled. And those are those connections that you have where you're like, you know, when you feel like you're in a good spot with yourself and you go connect with someone else, and it's that feeling afterwards of like, man, that was great. It was so great just to see so-and-so. Like, that felt so awesome, right? That kind of connection is really what we crave, and what we're actually looking for is to be able to connect with ourselves in that way and love ourselves in that way, as well as others.
I want to, and what you're describing to me is every time you say that, connect with yourselves, I'm just thinking CrossFit. It's like, I love exercising. It doesn't matter what, I have this assault bike in my garage and I'm fucking in love with it. And it sits in front of a TV set and I can go in, and I have dumbbells all around it and a pull-up bar, and I can just go in there, put Ryan Moody, explosive coach in YouTube, put on my fucking headphones. I give myself no matter what the workout is, I give myself the space to, like, you can always stop and take notes. Anything Ryan says that you want to write. And then I get at it. And I'll hang out in there from fucking 10 o'clock at night till midnight.
And what does it feel like when you're done?
I'm fulfilled. I'm intellectually, physically, emotionally, maybe emotionally I'm drained. That's good. I'm physically drained. That's good. I'm intellectually stimulated. That's good. I'm sweating. My body feels like all the fucking boxes are checked.
Yeah.
I'm connected.
Yeah.
I'm connected to myself. It's like, it's the
You filled
I
your
feel
tank through
bad that I
self-care.
have it. I feel bad that I have a room that I can do that in from 10 to midnight every night. Like, I don't really feel bad, but you know what I mean? That I wish, I guess what I mean, I don't feel bad. What I mean is like, I wish everyone had that.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing is, who teaches us this, Sevan?
I just feel, I don't know. I just feel lucky. Like I stumble. It's funny. I feel sorry for runners sometimes and people who are stuck in their, like these just certain ways of training. Like, even if you don't like CrossFit, you have to get into CrossFit for a year, because all the little things I've taken from it, I can bring to that room when I'm alone for 2 hours and do them. Like, I might have not done box jumps for 6 months, and now all of a sudden I'm doing box. Like, the whole world of physical movement has opened up to me.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing is, you keep in mind all these things that we're talking about, all these pieces that we're talking about. It's not to shame anyone that doesn't know how to do it or how to get it. No one teaches us this. You don't learn this in school, right? We don't go to a special emotional resilience class, right? No one teaches this. Typically, you end up learning this when you're in a position where you feel like you have nowhere else to turn and you're going to professional help, right? So we're all doing the best we can with what we have and what we've observed through the learning of watching our parents or whoever was raising us, right? And that's what we have. We have that limited window. And until we start to learn more about ourselves, connect with others, and as well as sometimes professional help, right? Do we actually start to see that it's not this, our life is not this, it's way more broadened, there's way more to it. And as you're discovering in that self-care that you're doing for yourself, right? That is fulfilling. That is a big deal. And I would argue that if you stopped doing that, you would start to tank, maybe emotionally or mentally, because you recognize there's a piece of what fills your tank missing. It feels, instead of like putting fuel into it, it feels like you're putting like an airy gas into it. It's not the same thing.
When I don't leave my sort of my habit, my life, where I live my life in my little hamster cage very often. But when you do go somewhere new, like well, it's the same thing with like, I never would watch porn unless I went, like when I used to travel for work. That would just be the only time. But when I travel for vacation, or I left to Newport Beach for 2 weeks, the house didn't have an assault bike. So what I would do is I started walking a shitload, and I started walking backwards on the beach.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
Good job, man.
Or I would go to the store 2 miles away and buy like 2 cases of Topo Chico, and be like, you got to carry this shit home now. But the shit there had to be some work done, right? There, like I knew that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is you're doing what we're trying to help people to do and teach at times, which is essentially when your main, we'll call it, for sake of this argument, right? Your coping mechanism, let's say it's the assault bike, right? Let's say it's but it's a positive one.
Yeah,
so,
and it used to be smoking.
Okay.
Like I got into nicotine in my 20s, and for like 10 years, and it was an amazing one. Like you could avoid eating, you could be calm, you could focus on your breathing. It was like evil yoga, evil meditation. Yeah, you know what I mean? Smoking's like evil yoga.
Yeah. Utilizing that assault bike, when it's gone, it's like, well, crap, what do I do now? Right? And so that's the thing is so Mark Bird, who owns the practice,
but I would have never thought to turn to porn. It's weird, like that there's this common denominator between all of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. So,
because my addiction, kind of like you said, it leads to something good. Smoking and porn, there's a price to pay. My biggest thing is I have to worry about like orthopedic calamity, right? I have to worry about like my knee hurting or some shit like that.
Right. You know, so Mark Bird, who owns a practice that I work for, the guy's amazing, like one of the best in the country. And one of the things that he expressed once in one of our group sessions with our men addicts is he was talking about you remember the movie Runaway Bride with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and she kept trying to marry these guys, and she would end up running the moment like she was supposed to walk down the aisle. She would freak out. Anyways, Richard Gere comes in. I think he's like a journalist, and he's writing stories about this woman and what she's doing. There you go. Caleb's killing it, man. And one of the things that was interesting in the movie, right, is he asked her like how she likes her eggs, and it's always the same way that the guy that she might be marrying likes his eggs. And towards the end of it, you know, he's like, you really need to figure out what kind of eggs you like, right? And so she spends all this time in the kitchen making all these different types of eggs, and she comes back to him and she's like, oh, it's this kind, right? However, if we take that and we utilize that as kind of like a metaphor in our lives, is you might love the assault bike. That might be like your scrambled eggs that you enjoy. However, it's important for you to also explore the other variations of eggs, if you will, or other ways in which you can fill your tank, so that if the assault bike's not there, you know where to turn to, right? It's when we don't do that we start to freak out and shut down. We're like, what do I do? But in the case for you, you recognized that I still need to be doing something, so I'm going to walk. And not only am I going to walk, I'm going to walk to X amount of miles to get Topo Chico, or I'm going to go on the beach and I'm going to walk backwards, right? These are great examples of I'm still going to find ways to do the thing that I need for me, because this is for me and this is important and I matter.
Right. And it would, when you're on those trips, it is easy to be like, well, I'll just swing by the liquor store and pick up some chewing tobacco. But you can't. You cannot. Yeah. You cannot go backwards. In that regard, I have sympathy for people who running is their therapy, because I don't think there's longevity there. You really, I don't mean to plug CrossFit, fuck those guys, but fuck, it's the greatest thing ever. Thank God Greg Glassman put that shit together, because you gotta figure out, you gotta go to fucking your L1 if you're a human being, and get all those tools and take them to your grave. They will fucking save you. They'll give you so many outlets. How old are you?
I'll turn 38 in February.
Wow, and you know that because that movie you referenced was 1999. You know your movies.
Yes, sir.
When was the first time you jumped? What are your earliest memories of jumping?
3rd grade. So I played basketball growing up. I was also in martial arts. I was in Taekwondo. And so jumping was obviously in both of those. And when I first got a basketball goal, when I was 8 years old, I mean, like you had a hoop at your house. Your parents put I got one for Christmas, sort of thing. Okay. This is like 93, and it was one you could lower in, like all the way down to like 6 foot or something like that, 5 foot, something low, right? And I remember being like, okay, I'm not the biggest kid. I'm not really tall. I'm kind of fast, but it would be awesome to be able to dunk. It would be awesome to be able to jump. And so from a very young age, I used to practice like taking a tennis ball or whatever and trying to dunk on the lowest height of the basketball goal. And then over time, I'd work my way up. And so at 5'9.5" in high school, I was finally dunking by the time I was like 18. But yeah, so that's my earliest memories with it. So jumping has always been a part of it, but I didn't know that I could do what I could do or where I could take it until I was actually a post-snowboarding accident when I was going to Boise State University. I was in a rough snowboarding accident and ended up breaking off part of my femur. That's
the femur's the one like between your hip and your knee?
Basically like the hardest one to break.
Yeah, wow, that one sounds really bad to break.
Yeah, I don't remember much of it. I sustained.
Were you a professional snowboarder or a collegiate snowboarder or no recreational? Okay, worse.
Yeah, it was like my first time. I did really well on the bunny hills, went to the big hills with my buddies, did fine. And they're like, hey, let's hit these jumps. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, you know. And I'm watching them go, and there's not a lot of speed as they're hitting the jump. And I'm like, dude, if you're going to do this, you got to go balls to the wall, right? And so I'm booking it down this hill. And all of a sudden, I recognize a few things. One, I've never been this fast on a snowboard. Two, I'm not really good at stopping, and no one showed me how to land. 3, right? The next thing I know, I'm waking up, and my buddies are laughing at the top of the hill that we're at, and it's like a yard sale. All my gear's everywhere, right? And I'm totally out of it, and I never made it to the jump.
Shit.
Yeah. I sustained like my 7th or 8th concussion at that time. I'm very accident prone. Anyways, ended up straightened my legs and my kneecaps kind of moved from one side to the other in a really weird way. And I was like, oh, something's bad. And so I was snowmobiled down the mountain to the lodge to get some.
Did you go into shock? Were you going into shock?
Possibly. I don't remember a whole lot. I just remember staring up at the sky a lot.
Because a femur break is
like
no
crap.
bueno. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was the very end of the femur next to basically the knee, right? And it was like basically this part of the femur, that chunk was broken off. And it was when I eventually had surgery. I had surgery on both my knees back here in Dallas when I was off from school. And they did work on both of them, but that part of the femur was actually removed. So I don't have that part of my femur anymore. But yeah, it was rough. And then I did my own therapy. I was in kinesiology school for my undergraduate at Boise State. And I actually, at the time, I had, 2008, I got certified at Santa Cruz HQ, January 2008. Were you there? Were you at that one? That was a big one. That's when OPT did the Helen workout.
Oh shit! Yeah. I was. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think I was there at that cert, but I remember that because I remember Tony Budding got hit this it was like it was before gimbals, and he had this vest where he could run after OPT and it would keep the camera from bouncing, and we were all excited to see that piece of equipment implement.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some crazy. He broke the world record for Helen there, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. You were at that seminar?
Yeah. That was like OGs out the wazoo. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
The names that were at that seminar was just insane.
That's when Greg used to teach the whole thing. Greg taught the whole thing, right? 3 days long or whatever.
I think I want to say Castro may have been running Flowmaster.
Okay.
That's when I first met Rob Wolf. That's when I met Kelly Starrett. They taught sections. Nicole did nutrition. The old video with Nicole doing nutrition where she says, F with your diet, right?
Yeah.
That was that seminar. Annie was there. Greg Amundsen was there. Oh, dude, it was Pat Barber was there. It was nuts. It was insane. Pat
Barber was he was a kid then.
he was young. I wasn't much younger than him at the time. Natalie Shatila was there. Yeah, it's just crazy the amount of names that were there. And I was still brand new to CrossFit. I found it in like summer 2007.
Yeah.
I watched the games on YouTube. But anyways, what was the original question? My ADHD is taking over.
So we're talking about jumping, and you had this injury, and even though you learned to dunk at 18 after this injury, it kind of reinvigorated your jumping career.
Right. So I didn't play basketball any bit after high school. I stopped actually, like my junior year. I stopped, and then going to college, I'd play for fun, but and I could always jump, and people were always like, "Man, this short white dude can jump," which is good. I always had that in my back pocket. But I actually was helping bring CrossFit methodology to Boise at the time. The next closest gym was like almost 45 minutes to an hour away. So this is early
300 gyms in 08 or something.
Yeah, it was low,
gyms,
low number. And anyway, so I was like, you know what? I was going to use what I've been learning through schooling as well as through CrossFit, and I was going to do my own therapy, and I did. And then I recalled that in basketball, we used to do plyometrics, jumps, box jumps, etc. in the off season. And I was like, maybe there's something to that because that's range of motion and that's power. So I'm going to start really low, like a plate on the floor, right? And try to get that back. And before I knew it, I was jumping 60 inches with a couple steps. And then the members at the gym at the time were like, you should see if there's a world record for this. And I was like, nah. And then it piqued my interest.
Yeah.
And I ended up, once I graduated from Boise State, went down to University of Utah. I had always heard about this gym called CrossFit 801, which was Tyson and Miranda's gym. And I was like, that's where I want to train. So
and that was in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, that was in Salt Lake. Yeah. Well, Midvale, but yeah, Salt Lake City. And ended up becoming a trainer there. And one day I was doing some jumps on their tires, and they both pushed me. They're like, "Hey, you should see if there's a world record for this, and we'll support you. We'll get a camera, the news here, to do the whole thing." And so eventually we did, and I broke the first world record at like 5 a.m. on the news.
Crazy.
With everyone there. Yeah.
Hey, was there a lot of stress on you when you did that? Were you like, "Oh shit, what if I don't?"
Dude, I didn't sleep that night any bit. I was freaking out. I kept having dreams that I was missing the jumps. Yeah. And I wake up like, oh crap. Like I actually last night woke up in a panic thinking I missed today's podcast.
Welcome to my life. That's every night when I go to sleep. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, I was super stressed. And one of the members at the time, Heidi, she saw that I was like breathing really rapid and I was freaking out. And I had to go on the news station's time. So when they're like, "We're live," I had to go. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't go when I was ready, right? Which I never wanted to do that again. And so she sat down with me on the floor. She put her back against the wall, put my back against her chest, and she put her hands on my chest and she said, "Breathe with me," to get me to calm down. And first time I started learning about the power of like breathing and releasing. And I ended up taking a class later at the U for stress management because I have a lot of anxiety and ADHD and all that fun stuff. And I learned about different techniques that are used in Taoism and Buddhism around breathing. And I ended up developing what's called the whiteboard mindset, which is a 3-step process that's used to be able to calm yourself down and you were talking about your son earlier in tennis, to tap into what we call that 6th or 7th gear, right? To turn it on. And that's something I teach in the seminars now. And people message me all the time after the seminars. So like, dude, the whiteboard mindset is legit. It helped me clear my mind so I could do this, that, etc. And I actually originally created it not for breaking world records. I created it to help me with exams in school because I struggled to take exams. I had a lot of anxiety around taking tests.
Why do you call it the whiteboard mindset? It's so funny when I type in whiteboard mindset.
It pulls up a lot of whiteboards.
Yeah. Why do you call it that? Oh, here we go. Mindset, meditation, and language. Oh no, that's someone else.
I do have videos out there, but I don't have a lot of videos out there for it because I keep that kind of for seminar guest only for the most part. Or when I do speaking engagements with different corporations, I'll teach their employees, stuff like that. But so I call it the whiteboard mindset because our mind is very much so like a whiteboard, right? We can fill it with all sorts of stuff, right? And it can really clog, that whiteboard up. And unlike a whiteboard, we struggle to be able to erase it and clear it, right? To be able to calm ourselves down. And no one's really taught us how to do that. And yeah, there's some grounding techniques that we can use. However, I utilize it like that because it's easier for people to picture. The other 2 pieces around this is almost every CrossFit gym you go to has a whiteboard, right? Workouts on the whiteboard. And so in the CrossFit community, people can relate to that already. And then the other piece is there was research done a while back, I believe, with Tibetan monks around a form of, there's a video somewhere on YouTube for this, around, I believe it's called shikantaza, which is like sitting in a tranquil state and an absence of thought. And they had these monks sitting in meditation in a room that was like 40 degrees. And they had them focus on the color white because supposedly white can create heat and energy in the mind and the body. And then they had them derobe. They took white, like beach towels, doused them in ice water, and then wrapped their bodies in these towels. And the average individual would go into hypothermia pretty quickly. And these monks were able to, there you go, silent illumination. And yeah, see, does not require focused attention on a specific object, et cetera. Just sitting in a state of conscious awareness. Yeah, there you go. Man, Caleb is crushing it. Was that you or was that Caleb, Sevan?
Caleb.
Gosh, man, he's good. So yeah, you're sitting in this state, and these monks are there, and the average individual will go into hypothermia, right? Because the blood's going to start to recede to keep the core warm, right? So that you stay functional, so you survive. And what was interesting in like the first, they sat in these positions for like 10 hours plus. in meditation, which obviously they're, masters of their art in meditation. But the other thing is they took like I don't know if it's called a thermogenic scanner, where it scans like the body heat, right? The body temperature. And typically in a situation like this, you would see it centered, right? Around the center of the body where it's keeping organs alive, keeping you alive. However, the heat was being expelled from them. And they were actually able to dry the towels completely, as if the towels came out of a dryer, like fluffy again. It's pretty amazing. But that's the other piece, is I use the whiteboard or the color white as a distraction point for individuals when I teach this. So see the whiteboard, clear it, and just focus on the color white. And it's meant as a distraction. Then we go into, and there's breathing and releasing with this that happens. And then we go into, okay, what's my task? So you open your eyes. Oh, it's a seated box jump. Got it. Okay. Then close your eyes again, breathe in and out. When you open your eyes, you have 3 seconds or less to perform the task. Now, why would I give them 3 seconds or less? What do you think?
So that their mind doesn't start back up?
Absolutely. Because the more we start thinking about stuff, the more we talk ourselves out of doing it, right?
Skateboarding is a fascinating example of that. No one wants to try anything once they've thought about it. You put a kid at the top of a drop in, and he starts thinking. He's like, "I'm not, nah." No one in their right mind is having thoughts where do this. The brain the whole time is like, "Hey, jackass, get off your board and go watch some porn."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's a 5-hour seminar, but not sitting down. It's learn, move.
Dude, in all honesty, it's like the old CrossFit level ones where you would do a lot of workouts that were involved, and it just felt like a physical beatdown sometimes. So I have people that are really sore, and so I always tell people, hey, don't go too hard, don't go ham in day one, because if you come back for day 2, our level 2 seminar, right, you're gonna be hurting some. Yeah.
When I was in the 4th grade, at the end of my 4th grade year, my school shut down. And I had to go to a different school, and the school was a mile up the hill from my house.
Both ways.
I'm sorry?
It was a mile uphill both ways, right?
Yeah, right. And so that the first day of school in 5th grade, this story was inspired by what you said about having anxiety, like the day before the jump, or before, like, you're going to have to be on a podcast in the morning. And I got up and that morning, and I rode my bike there. And it was freezing cold. And when I say freezing cold, I mean, it's probably like 40 degrees. And
California cold.
Yeah, California cold. And I rode my bike up there, and I and I'm the first one there at school. None of the teachers are there, no janitors. And I'm in a little bit of a panic. I probably left the house like at 5 or 6 a.m. like an idiot. I don't know why my mom told me, didn't set me straight. But I get there, and I think maybe I've gone up on the wrong day, because there's no one there.
There's no one there.
Like somehow I fucked up. It's like a dream, but this isn't a dream. This really happened to me.
Yeah.
And then the first car pulls up, and a gentleman gets out of the car, and he comes over and introduces himself to me, and he tells me his name's Mr. Allen. And I quickly realized that he's the principal of the school, and he's the husband to my kindergarten teacher, who I've had a crush on since kindergarten. And now I'm in the 5th grade, and I realize she's married. So now I've gotten there an hour early. I realized that there's no chance of me ever marrying my kindergarten teacher. and people start coming now. And now my anxiety, now I realize I'm there on the right day. And then another 40 minutes pass, or an hour passes, and school starts, and I go to my classroom. And by now I'm just exhausted. I got up too early. I'm physically exhausted from the ride. I'm emotionally tapped. And I just, it's a trip how that's kind of the, not to that extent, of course, because but that is a theme in my life. This podcast starts at 7 a.m. I get up at 6 and immediately start working towards, like, I just don't want to be late. I want to show up to, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I want to show up. I mean, you didn't marry my kindergarten teacher, so I like you a little bit more. But it just brought back that memory. It just brought back that memory. Being late sucks. Yeah,
absolutely. Have you ever had an experience in your life, Sevan, where being late led to a feeling of shame or disappointment from others? when you were younger?
I have to ask myself that and see if something pops up. I do know this. The other day I was late to. It was the first time I ever missed a podcast time. I asked a guy if he could come on an hour early, if he could come on at 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. And then after it was like my 600th podcast maybe, and I was late. This was just last week, and what that does to me is crazy. It's like, when you lock your doors at night before you go to bed, if I wake up in the morning and I see a door that's unlocked, that for the next 3 months I have to check all the doors 10 times. It can fucking put me into a fucking tailspin. And so
what is that feeling? What is that feeling?
Like, I'm disappointed in myself that I wasn't conscious enough. Like, if you ever check something and then 2 minutes, like I used to ride a motorcycle and I put a backpack on and then I have to pull over and stop the motorcycle and get off and check the backpack again to see if it's really zipped. But I have to like talk to myself out loud. Dickhead, it's zipped. Don't get off the motorcycle again. But it only takes once to get to a location and see that it's unzipped, and it's like, oh no, oh no, and it seems like, how could that happen?
Yeah,
I
wonder.
I don't know what it feels like, but I just don't want to accept it. Like things, I just don't want to accept. It's fucking. It's. I don't want to say it's torturous because part of me finds the whole thing pretty funny, but some nights. And I'm sure some people have it way worse than me, but there's some nights where I climb into bed and I know the doors are locked, but I know if I don't get up and check them, I just won't sleep. It's kind of like writing. Same thing if I'm in bed and I'm make sure you ask Ryan if he's ever injured himself jumping. I can't be like, oh, write that down and don't worry, you won't forget. No fucking way. I will get up and write it down. And then as soon as I write it down, I'm free from it.
Yeah.
But if security. I don't, I'm like, oh, whew.
Yeah. That peace of mind, right? That security. It makes me wonder, like in those moments where you're talking about on the motorcycle where you use like a variation of shame to tell yourself like, look, dickhead, it's zipped, right? And then you learn later that it's not. And you're like, crap. It'd be interesting to see what it would look like to say, I give myself permission to look at this once.
Right.
And then I'm done.
It wouldn't matter what I say. I should probably try to be nice to myself. The thing is this, I'm disappointed that I feel like I was unconscious the first time I checked the doors. That's where the shame is. It's like, wow. Because I put a lot of a premium on being conscious.
Yeah, because someone taught you that in your life, right? You observed that from someone.
I think I probably read it in a book somewhere. In my 20s, or like, you know what I mean? I probably read it in my book somewhere, or it's just a goal. I don't even know that. It's just a goal. Being conscious it's so much better to be conscious.
Yeah. Awareness, self-awareness, like that's huge. And being able to utilize that. Yeah. 100%.
So I just threw away all my motorcycles. No, I didn't. Can anyone dunk?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. Does that break your heart to say that? You're like, oh, I really don't want to argue anyone's limitations, but no, Colten, you cannot dunk.
Colten Mertens. Oh man, I don't know. Colten's got some power, man. That kid has some power. He's super impressive.
What's the shortest guy in the world to dunk? Wasn't that guy in the NBA 4'11" like Muggsy Bogues or some shit?
Muggsy Bogues, I think. I want to say Muggsy was like 5'3" or something, but then there was a guy a little bit taller than him that could dunk. I can't remember his name right now. I want to say he was like 5'6", 5'7".
I remember there was another guy. There were two. There was like a time when it was like there were the two guys, the trendy guys in the league who were tiny. 5'2" short. Oh
yeah, Flight Brothers. Yeah, I was literally gonna say 5'2". I want to say I've seen a 5'2" dunker before.
Is that really a dunk though? I don't know if that's a dunk.
So he's basically in a way like alley-ooping himself, right? He's just going off the bounce. So typically when you have a shorter dunker, this is a variation that you're going to see, in part because holding onto the ball is going to take away from their arm swing, right? So they're using that arm swing as a scoop to be able to develop even more power. typically shorter individuals that are going to go up to dunk will not hold the ball because they're going to lose some of that power or they're going to have trouble palming the ball.
Right.
And so
Spud Webb, not Spud Johnson, Spud Webb.
Yes,
Good job, Dylan.
Nice. Yes.
Okay, so when you hold the ball, you're losing some of the mechanics to get high.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that scoop plays a huge role. And think of it like this. You ever watch Seinfeld?
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you remember the girl who wouldn't swing her arms when she ran?
No, but I like that.
Same concept. People won't. Yeah, look at Spud Webb, dude. Amazing.
Oh, and now that he's dunking.
Oh, he's for sure dunking. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But yeah, you want to utilize your arms, right? I watch people box jump all the time, and they're not really utilizing their arms, or they're using their arms in a counterproductive way. So instead of using their arms to scoop, they're jumping and landing with their arms coming back to their hips. So they're actually working against themselves. Yeah, happens all the time. People don't see it because you're not really looking for it, right? So it makes a big difference, though.
You've seen like in the cartoons, they'll show people running with their arms back like this,
like Naruto. Yeah.
My kids, that's how little kids run.
Yeah.
Like if you see little kids, like it was only like fortunate, and I never told my kid to swing his arms. But one day the tennis coach goes, "Run on your toes and swing your arms." And he looks at me, and goes, "Well, what the fuck, dude? You spend so much. Why have you been letting your kid run like this?" And it just changed my kid right, like instantaneously. But he literally, my oldest son would run like this, like it was like some sort of like joke cartoon character. And I would just like watch it and laugh.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's the thing is like we're utilizing our environment, right? We're utilizing our environment to have observed learning. So if someone doesn't teach us this, then what are we going to do with that?
Okay, Caleb? What's this? We're going to show someone running with their arms behind there.
Yeah, somebody's supposed to Naruto run around here somewhere. I guess. It's not
Was that a live feed where aliens were gonna? Okay, how tall is Ryan?
5'9.5", 5'10" on a tall day.
Wow. Heidi only cares because she's trying to figure. Are you single?
Yeah.
So he's 5'9" and single, but with shoes on, he's 5'10". Hey, every show is a therapy session from me. Every show.
I won't bill you though. It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting combination. Being a LPCA.
Yep. Basically a therapist. Yeah.
And but also a explosive coach.
Yeah. So
which one's are either of them a hobby, or both of them, or they compete for your time? Do they integrate well together?
So neither are a hobby per se, because for the greater part of a decade, being a CrossFit coach and being teaching CrossFit CEU, which level 1 is I actually have to update it, but it's a CEU. That and personal training was like a lot of my life. I've taught over 500 seminars in the world in 40 countries on 6 continents.
Wow! Wow!
So
holy shit!
Yeah,
say that again. 500 seminars on 6 continents.
Yeah, 40 different countries.
Yeah, that's not a hobby at all.
Yeah. So I was doing it at a arguably a high level, but then
and everyone knows you. I couldn't believe it when I had you on. I can't believe how many texts and DMs poured in. Oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that guy. And even Dave said when you asked the question, he goes, "Holy shit, this is an OG. This is Ryan Moody. Been in the community forever." Yeah,
I appreciate that. I try to connect with as many people as possible. And being around in the community for a long period of time. Right, I competed in the 2009 CrossFit Games on team.
Yeah,
and so you just connect with people, right? And with a seminar, that took it to a whole nother level because I've had tens of thousands over more than a decade of people coming through the seminars. Right. I have gyms that have hosted the seminar 5 times, 6 times.
Wow. And you teach it. You're the guy.
Yeah, I have had in the past coaches that were assisting me in that. Now that the seminars have picked back up, post-COVID, whatever you want to call that, right?
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, whatever you want to call it. I do.
Yeah. We're in this post-apocalyptic COVID thing. I don't know. So if it's officially over, but really
the wet blanket was put on humanity's consciousness. That one wet blanket you talked about. Fucking sad.
Yeah. But I'm starting to bring some coaches back into helping teach again. I had a buddy of mine, Tafui, who lives up in Utah. He came with me most recently to seminars that I taught in Ecuador at the largest fitness expo in South America. But yeah, so that's the thing is like CrossFit's amazing because you can go anywhere, right? And you feel belonging. I've only ever had one CrossFit gym where there was ever a negative experience, and I wasn't teaching there. And that was in Australia, but that's neither here nor there. But they
were drunk. Give them a pass. They were drunk.
Yeah, drunk. But yeah, it's awesome to hear the community reach out to you and express, oh, I know him, da da da. So that's awesome. Yeah, and I try to throughout my career in CrossFit, I've tried to connect with as many people as possible. You know, I've worked with 50 games athletes over the years, and people in media, Marston, Heber. I think we've been in the same room together, but I don't think we've ever officially met in person, you and I. But yeah, so it's interesting. And I've spent some time with Dave because originally we were going to try. We were talking about making the seminar a CrossFit seminar, but we ended up not. I ended up choosing not to go that route because I wanted to keep it as mine.
It's interesting. You know that year at the games they had the L-sit and the softball throw. They had the and I think they had a way to pull. There was a bunch of shit that was like just worth like 50 points. Do you remember that?
The 2009?
No. It was when it was in Carson, but they did a bunch of events that were instead. You know, normally the events are worth 100 points. They did some year where there was a bunch of shit that was like 50 points.
Yes, I do remember that. I remember the softball throw.
Oh, and I think they had the broad jump one year. And they kind of had to rush it. Something happened and they had to rush it. So they did it down. They did it.
In the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think didn't Nate Schrader win that one? I think he did.
Wow. Good memory. OPEX guy. Nate
I believe
Schrader.
so. Yeah.
I'm just trying to match you on like tidbits of trivia.
Oh, yeah.
I like the idea of a vertical jump pot showing up at the games.
So I've wanted for a long time for there to be a vertical jump and or a higher box jump. I was really excited this year to see them doing those box jump overs on the 42 inches.
52, right?
Was it 52? Oh, geez.
Something crazy.
Yeah, it's high. I've wanted to see it.
Someone will say in the comments, but you basically saw that Colten had to do basically like a walk-up jump to it.
Oh, yeah. Which at the end of the day, like if it doesn't say you had to do it from a standing position, run at it.
Right.
Whatever you got to do, right?
Right.
I wanted to jump back to something you said earlier, Sevan, if that's all right. You were talking about the hobbies.
The show's over. Sorry.
I guess you had to bring me back then. So neither one is really a hobby. I mean, my primary career is being a therapist, and coaching, etc. I still do personal training. I still teach seminars. Is kind of an auxiliary, right? It's something else I get to do that allows me to travel, for free and make money while doing it, and teach people. But I don't have to worry about, I got to get this next seminar. I got to get another one, right? I have being a therapist is awesome. It helps a lot too with teaching. But one of the things that I'm working on putting together, and I can only give so much detail right now, disclosure wise, I'm working on meshing the world of CrossFit, if you will, and mental health in a singular program that's utilized in kind of you think of it as like a camp type format. But we're working on that right now.
Like sleepover.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So we're working on putting that together in a very big way. It's going to start in a more therapeutic sense, meaning these are going to be individuals that they have to have referrals from their therapist. So they're already in the recovery process, right? But eventually we're going to open that up to general population. So that's a big thing that's coming down the chute, hopefully within the next year.
It's awesome. All the happy. I want to say something really extreme. I was going to say, I don't know anyone happy who doesn't exercise. Basically, all the non-exercise people I know are fear-based people. And by non-exercise people, I mean even the people who like my dad doesn't per se exercise, but he's 82, and every day he has orchards, right? He's his orchards, and he manages orchards and ladders and moving hoses and digging holes. And anyone who's not doing something physically every single day they're all fear-based people. It's a trip, and their lives suck. All of them. Sorry, my wife doesn't like me to say all, but I can't think of one who's not. And fear-based people are tough to be around. Yeah, they're tougher to let my kids be around them too.
I could see that.
They're always arguing your limitations. They're always arguing limitations. They're an anchor on humanity. When you hang out with them, they are, and that's why I love the idea of this camp you're doing. And I love the idea of a therapist who is movement based. Like, I'm sure you've said it 1,000 times. What do you do for movement? And dude, walking. I was so impressed when Mark Bell put that thing out there. Here he is, this big fucking buff, handsome guy. And his challenges is like, hey, I'm going to walk. I'm going to just spend a day walking. Come walk with me. It's like, God, you're fucking cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's amazing just how much walking does for us when we actually utilize it as a means of like, this is going to be self-care for me. I'm not doing this because I have to, or that it's prescribed for me to do, but really even utilizing it as a form of kind of filling in your need to your non-exercise activity thermogenesis throughout the day is huge, because you can burn so many calories just going on a basic walk. You can burn more calories in that over the period of like an hour than you can in some CrossFit workouts, right? Which are a higher intensity that require a lot of us. You can really make a lot of difference. But the other piece of that's really important is we as human beings are meant to move. We're meant to move in how we've been created. And so by tapping into that, we're actually feeding ourselves part of what we need. And that can help our mentality a ton. I mean, we know that when we work out or we exercise, right, there's the endorphin release. One of the big things right around serotonin that we feel like after doing a workout or something we've accomplished is when we work out, it actually increases the production of what creates serotonin. It doesn't actually create the serotonin, is my understanding. It increases the productivity of that. And right, so that creates that happier mindset. And so it's a lot harder to be in that depressed mindset. Yeah, you might dip back into that. However, the more that we do it daily, etc., the more we're actually really helping ourselves, not just physically, but mentally.
Right. It's all mental for me.
That's fair.
My kids jump a lot. I've always been a huge proponent of jumping.
I've watched the videos, man. It's awesome.
Like huge. And I think what I'm observing from their jumping is a gnarly. I don't know what this thing is called. That I guess it's called the Achilles tendon. The thing that attaches that wire that you can pinch on the back of their ankle.
Achilles.
Yeah. Is that true? You think because my kids jump so much that thing's thickening at a faster pace than your regular fucking just fat kid playing Nintendo? Because man, they look abnormally thick on my kids, and when I squeeze them, I trip on them.
So it's possible. I know that there's research out there. I'm not going to be able to speak to any of it, in a way that's going to be any bit legitimate at the moment. Around doing more activity, especially being more upright, potentially thickening that and the growth development phases. So yeah, is that a possibility? Absolutely.
Like some sort of adaptation, right? Like their body's like, oh yeah, this kid's going to use it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. This is just at a hotel. Man. Like this is like, did you see him bounce that?
Yeah. Watch his landing. He sits and so that's so awesome. We do this naturally. Right? When he lands, he utilizes the momentum of the landing, and he doesn't land like when you see adults jump and land, they land in this stiff position, and they're like, oh, my back, oh, my knees.
Yeah.
You see here, it's very parkour, where he's utilizing the momentum and the energy, and he's dispersing it out in the landing, and then even falling forward, he bounces out of it some, which actually saves the joints.
I see him slap his hands on the ground, almost even little jumps. He slaps his hands on the ground. He's always slapping his hands on the ground. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that can be done. I always hear about people saying like, jumping can do damage to the joints. Yes, absolutely. You land incorrectly. You're not taught how to land. Absolutely.
We do a lot of running, rolling, jumping, rolling. Yeah. I want them to be comfortable falling in the land.
Yeah,
to
body
send that
awareness in
energy.
space is huge. Yeah, absolutely.
And jump up, right? Sorry to interrupt you, but I tell them for every time they jump down, you have to do a jump up, meaning they would jump down that flight of stairs, and then I would make them jump up one by one. So it's not just always the impact of jumping down. It's jump up a flight of stairs, one stair at a time too, right? Get the balance.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You want to have essentially both phases, right, of that. So having that balance is important. It would be like only training your quads and never training your hamstrings, right? You need to have both. We want to develop both. And that was actually one of the biggest things from Louie that I learned is how much we really don't do our hamstrings. We think we do, but we don't. Give me
an example. Like what's something we should be doing for our hamstrings? Yesterday I rode the assault bike backwards.
Oh, nice.
Very slow, very, very, very slow. And it was a trippy. I was like, I never ride this thing backwards. I better start. I watched the ADCC, the Abu Dhabi Combat Challenge, the big jiu-jitsu tournament was yesterday. And I just sat there and rode the bike backwards, and it was a trip.
Yeah. I don't doubt that.
So looking for balance. I just figured, I ride it forward, I should ride it backward. Yeah. What should we be doing for our hamstrings?
One thing, regardless if you lift weights or otherwise, okay, like let's just say you want to have stronger hamstrings, or this is even connected to like people having knee pain when the quad is too dominant, right? It can create knee pain over time. So we want to be able to offset that with the hamstring. But one of the things I learned at Westside on my first day there has stuck with me since, and I tell this to people all the time. Laying down on your stomach, doing hamstring curls, right? So I'm pointing my toes, right? And I'm kicking them down, not touching the floor, and then bringing back up. And it's very pendulum, top, 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 right? Like a metronome. And doing that for high repetitions, 100 plus. So my first day at Westside, I don't recommend this, by the way, to anyone listening. I would not say go out and do what I'm about to tell you. This is very Louie. Louie put 10-pound ankle weights, 10 per ankle, on each one of my ankles, had me lay down on a bench. And he said, you're going to do these hamstring curls laying down, and don't get up until you've done 300.
Wow.
And I was like, holy crap. And I was like, I'm going to end up cramping or something or tearing something. I had trouble walking for the next week. However, those were always implemented in my training every week, 2 to 3 times a week. And my joints, which I've had joint problems over the years, my joints never felt better. And I was never stronger than I was when I was training.
Wow. I love this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lay on your stomach and do curls. What would be, I have 5-pound ankle weights. Could I lay on my stomach and do 50 with 5 pound? Would that be a good start?
I would actually say start with body weight, go 100 unbroken.
I will not do body weight. I am not a pussy.
Yeah, no. Trust me on this. So do 100 unbroken, or try to, in as few sets as possible, right? But it's not like this. People do this. You can do lots. No, it needs to be controlled. 1, 2, 1, 2, right? Until you reach 100. Keep your toes pointed as you're doing this. Don't let them flop down or any of this. Keep them pointed. Watch how much your hamstrings are engaged. And I would advise to roll over onto your back when you're done, because most people cramp up if they try to bend at that point, just with body weight. And these are people who are seasoned.
Can we see a video of that, Caleb? This sounds awesome.
There might be I might have some videos, Ryan Moody hamstring curls somewhere on YouTube.
What do you think about the knee over toes guy?
What's his name?
the walking backwards stuff in the sled.
Yeah, I'm an absolute fan of him.
Yeah.
I've even heard of an orthopedic surgeon speaking to a lot of what he does as being very good stuff. Yep, there you go. Let's see what it looks like.
Prone hamstring curls.
So the only difference is you would do both feet at the same time, and when you go back down, you won't touch the mat. You'll suspend it right before the last second, so you're not trying to touch your toes.
Because you don't want to rest.
You want to be time under tension.
Time under tension.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I can do that.
And they're amazing. But over time, you work so let's say you get 100 unbroken, right? Great. Now do 200 unbroken the next time you do it. Great. Now get 300 unbroken. Once you get 300 unbroken with body weight, now shift into weight. Go back to 100, right? So 100 with 5 pounds on each ankle, et cetera, until you build up. Doing it incrementally like that is one of the smarter ways to do it, more of the effective ways to do it. And you will see that building from that foundation up from that as to how much it'll help. The other thing I recommend people do, and I'm not going to lie, especially in the CrossFit community, I have a bone to pick around this, because I see athletes, especially athletes with large followings, doing box squats so freaking wrong, like so wrong. They make it quad dominant. It's not. It's supposed to be hamstrings and glutes. It's a very posterior chain movement. Your knee should not be over your toe when you're in that position, box squatting. Your shin should be vertical or slightly behind the ankle. And
do you teach all this in your seminar?
Yep. And the level day 2, we do a lot of the lifting variations.
Okay.
And kind of some stuff, conjugate type stuff that I was given Louie's blessing to be able to utilize and mesh with my stuff for the day 2 stuff. But yeah, so the other piece would be when people slam or plop, is what we call it, plopping on the box, right, with weight on their back. Not good. Yeah, here you go. I believe that's Dave Tate. So you notice, like, even in that position, you can see how far back his knees go when he's doing it. And notice how wide his stance is. Now, the idea here, yeah, you can train this in more of an Olympic stance. However, by training in that wide stance, you're really focusing more on the posterior chain, as well as more like the inner thigh. If you're ever really sore from box squats or sore at all on your quads, you're doing it wrong. It needs to be on the backside. You need to be feeling your lower posterior chain to be doing box squats correctly.
And when you say posterior chain, you mean your ass?
Yeah. Low back, ass, hamstrings, calves, etc., all the way down.
It's in Dave Tate. Greg one time gave Dave Tate a check for $10,000 to come talk at CrossFit San Diego. Yeah, and he came there, and man, he fucking tore us up. It was really cool. Greg loved it.
That's when he said he said the teabag the barbell cue, right?
Oh, he may have said that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was totally against. He was so frustrated with how quad dominant all the CrossFit athletes were. He was totally against a high. He was a low barbell back squat guy.
Yep.
And the whole seminar basically became like, hey, you guys have to stop being so quad dominant.
Yeah.
It was really cool. He was great. He was great.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is I thought I was working my posterior chain any bit. And then I went to Westside and I was like, why am I so sore? This is crazy. I and I learned way more about working posterior chain. I thought we did it all the time in CrossFit, just in lifting in general, but no, we don't as much as we could and get the benefits from it. That's possible. But yeah, on the box squatting, man, I have a video called Stop the Plop where I talk about this, because when you see, like, let's say hypothetically a games athlete with 400 plus pounds on their back and they just crash on a box, or they just barely touch their butt to a box, or their knee is far over their toe when they're doing it, that's telling everyone else this is how you should be box squatting.
Yes.
That's not right. We don't want to be doing that, right? So I always try to educate as many people as I can, especially in the seminars, on how to do it appropriately. Because if you really want a box squat, well, let's do it in the way that's actually going to get you the biggest bang for your buck, right? Let's not do it from what we see on Instagram or Instagram models doing it or whatever. That stuff drives me nuts. But
and you can just do what I did too. You can just go to Ryan, type in Ryan Moody, explosive coach into YouTube, and tons of videos pop up. Tons and tons and tons.
Thank you for that plug.
Where do you live?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You like it there?
Love it here, man. I've lived in Arizona, Idaho, Utah, Ohio, South Carolina, and then briefly in San Diego.
Oh, where in Idaho?
Boise, right in Boise when I was going to Boise State.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Did you like that?
Beautiful. Oh, dude. First of all, the people up there are incredible. Second of all, it is so beautiful up there. I think people always think potatoes, but it is super green and amazing out there, and people love to be outside. So you're active.
The state is exploding.
Mhm. Yeah.
That Coeur d'Alene area, man, it's like every Tom, Dick, and Harry with the fat bankroll is rolling up there.
Exactly.
And I haven't heard one bad thing about it.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to go to CDA yet. I want to go up there because it's supposed to be absolutely incredible. I spent most of my time in the Boise area primarily because of school. But yeah.
Do you think you'll continue to do both the counseling and the explosive coaching?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And instead of there's not a contentious relationship between those two. It's actually quite the opposite. You're learning how you're building an incredible kind of like symbiotic relationship. You're actually curating some of the best content from both, and maybe my words, not yours, turning into some sort of camp.
Right, exactly. That's what I'd like to do. Currently, I have to be very careful ethically. There is what's called a dual relationship. So let's say you came to me for counseling, right? I couldn't also be your personal trainer. That's not okay. That's an ethical violation.
No shit.
For real. Yep.
I thought it was just like if you come to you for counseling, you can't fuck them. You can't teach them how to jump either. That seems it seems like you're taking it a little far. We can't be naked together, nor can I teach you how to jump. Really?
Yeah.
What's the? Yep. Tell me how that gets weird. Well, seriously, you've totally lost me. How is that unethical?
So you got to look at power dynamics, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so if I'm charging you to come to therapy, right? I'm learning a lot about you in confidentiality, right?
Right.
That it is very deep stuff that could be harmful to you. Uh-huh. Now, if it's shared or others start to connect dots, etc. And then if I'm also personal training you, now I have two means of income from you that I'm utilizing, which looks like a position of power that I'm gleaning more money from you essentially. Right. And so that's not okay. So there's lots of different types of dual relationships.
Oh,
and
I see.
Yeah. So that's definitely not okay. Unfortunately, is kind of how that works.
What do you think about like gyms that sell shit to their clients?
Like what? What do you mean?
Like if I'm selling you shoes and I'm getting a cut for the shoes, then maybe I'm selling you ass shoes. I'm leveraging the fact that you trust me on me telling you how to move, but I'm selling you ass shoes just because I get a cut. Is that unethical?
From a therapist standpoint, no. But from a industry standpoint, I think we run into problems with this in general, because if you think of it like that, you're going to sell me some ass shoes, but I trust you. I trust that what you're going to tell me is actually going to be beneficial for me. And if you're selling me something because you're getting a cut of it, how is that really helping me? Right? What kind of rapport is that building between you and I? Right. So I think a lot of that does come down to like morals and ethics in general, but it depends on the person. So
everyone who's ever wanted to do everyone who's always wanted to do an affiliate program with the podcast, I tell them I'd rather you just pass. I'm not going to do it. Just pass the discount to the. So let's say I was I don't know what the fuck it is, but people, I don't want to name any companies, but they were like, hey, we'll give you 15% of every sale you make. I like just give it to the people, like give the coffee discount to the people.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? This is totally off subject here.
Hit me with it, man.
What do you think about you can't have a president of the United States.
Okay.
Like doing shit like cheating on his wife or like into kiddie porn or shit like that, because then other countries could leverage that guy's desire to hide that shit from his wife to get stuff from him. You know what I mean? So like supposedly that was like the thing with Trump. Supposedly like there was like Putin had footage of him at the Ritz-Carlton like having strippers pee on him or something like that. You know what I mean?
wow.
The Washington Post. It's not. I don't think it's true at all. But the Washington Post insinuated it, and I don't know if you know about the Washington Post, but it's the worst newspaper in the entire world. It's Jeff Bezos' newspaper. It's really bad. It's really bad, the shit they do. But you can't have that either, right? Even though it's a free country and you should be allowed to let people pee on you if that's what you want. There become like some positions of power where you have to be
well, that's why we'll see impeachment, right? At different times in history over stuff choices, whether morally or otherwise, ethically or otherwise, that are done, like Nixon as an example, Clinton as an example. And so
Nixon was actually breaking the law, right? And Clinton was just doing something that was putting our national security at risk because he wanted to hide this chick that he stuck a cigar in the White House from his wife. I mean, right? I mean, that's the thing, right?
So I don't know.
Like, there's a difference between breaking the law and then being able to leverage someone who's in power. I just don't like these things are starting to make more and more sense to me as I get older. It was like we had this guy who was the CEO of CrossFit who was cheating on his wife with a lady who was cheating on her husband. And as a young man, I was like, fuck, what do I care? Let people do whatever they want. But then as I got older, I'm like, wow, what's this guy's moral integrity? If he'll do this to his wife, and if this lady will do this to her husband, and they're both fucking high powered in the company, and to the rest of the people, those of us who are trying to have monogamous relationships, it was also causing like trauma there. Because if my best friend is cheating on his wife, my wife's like,
Yep. Betrayal
right?
trauma. Yeah.
And there's all of these it's a trip.
So my question is this then. We take the younger version of you that's like, hey, people can do what they want, let them do what they want. And we take the older version of you that's saying, oh no, blah, blah, blah. Like, what if he's doing this? What does that mean that he's willing to do? Blah, blah, blah. What did it take for you from young you to go to older you to get to this point? I think there's something really important there around the question of how did you shift those gears? What did it take to get to that point to where you started to actually question what an individual in power is doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, obviously having kids had a tremendous impact on me. Tremendous. But it's starting to realize the nuances of what we want from our leaders and the desire to, like, I think like the perfect leader for the United States would be a man who lived in a yurt on the lawn of the White House, who never wore anything besides a sheet and had no investments.
I hear you.
I want pure transparency. I want it so like literally like when he lifts up that sheet, we see his cock and balls. I want a man who's naked to the world.
Right. Okay. Because what need is that filling for you?
Honesty, transparency, and when we do see his angle or his agenda, it's apparent to us. He doesn't want to kill children. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or he does approve of child labor, like whatever it is. I don't like the idea of outside interests affecting our leaders like that. Like that's a public servant role.
Yeah, sounds like you're tired of the smoke that we get within the political realm. Like, just be transparent with me. Show me this is your bad stuff. Okay, well at least I know how to make my decisions now, right?
And that's basically I guess you just nailed it. I hated Donald Trump because of his behavior, but my premium has now become more for I have no tolerance for I've lost my tolerance for lying and poor thinking, and so I don't, and so now I don't hate Donald Trump because I see him as being honest. Like when he says, "Yeah, of course I have Jew accountants and not black guys. Who wouldn't want a Jew accountant?" I'm like, "Yeah, I appreciate that." As opposed to the left claiming that they're helping black people when everything they're doing is hurting black people. I put a premium on honesty and transparency over over lying and hurting people.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't really like him saying some things, but
Mhm.
I put the premium on honesty.
Yeah. It sounds like it's connected to your value system.
Yeah, I guess
This is
so.
how you value. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what helps you. Value systems, belief systems helps us to make the decisions that we are going to make it, in the future. Because you've had experiences where you're like, oh, I didn't like how Trump was assertive or aggressive in these manners, the way he would speak,
right,
etc. However, now after experiencing, current administration or administrations where there's a lot of lying, you're going, wait, I definitely don't want that now. So what I do want is I want someone who's going to be assertive. I also want someone who's going to be transparent and it's not blowing, smoke up my kilt.
Right.
So.
And I'd like someone who says that puts a premium on jumping, explosive movements.
So you want me to run for president? Is that what it is?
Yes. Wouldn't it have been cool if just one of those fucking knuckleheads, just one, the listen to the two jackasses who put a premium on I shouldn't call them jackasses. It's not fair. But the two people that put a premium on movement were the CNN guy who's a fucking complete fucking lunatic. Not Don Lemon, but the guy whose brother got fucking kicked out of being governor of New York. One of the Cuomos.
Cuomo, yeah.
The CNN host there, he worked out and people made fun of him. The people on the right made fun of him. And Marjorie Taylor Greene works out. She even said that fucking CrossFit will fucking prevent you from fucking dying of COVID. And she got made fun of from the left. Why couldn't have just Donald Trump lost 40 pounds while he was in office, or Joe Biden said, hey, if you work out? Why can't one of those guys just say that?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem very extreme to me.
Well, you can also say not very extreme things around COVID in general and get completely shut down.
I know. I lost my count.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. This was good.
Yeah, brother. Absolutely.
What a great range of topics. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise. Absolutely,
yeah, you're a
man.
cool cat.
Dude, and seriously, if you can come up to Sacramento for that seminar, man, I'd love to have you.
Tell me the day.
It's going to be the weekend of December 3rd and 4th, I believe, at Iron Mile. Yep, at the Alderman's Gym.
God, I really like Ben Alderman too. That would kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah. So Ben and his wife Stephanie and their kids, incredible human beings. I've been around the world times and there's very few people like them.
Yeah, they're dope. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will we have each other's text messages. I don't sleep with my phone next to my bed, so you can text me 24 hours a day. That goes for anyone, by the way, who has my phone number. I do not give a shit. Text me when the fuck ever. Except for you, Caleb. I don't except for you, Caleb.
Thanks for all your help today, Caleb.
Of course.
And I would consider. Is it okay if I tell people that we're friends and that I know you, Ryan?
Oh, of course.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Caleb, you can too. That's fine too, brother.
Nice.
I'll put you on that list.
Awesome. Thank you guys so
all right,
much.
brother. Have a good day.
It. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Send him my number. Dude, DM him. Wow, that was like 1,000 times better than I thought. Not that I thought anything bad, but wow.
Well, I mean, you didn't have very many notes. So you must have been confident about it.
I guess so, right? But I only had I had so few notes. I like one full page of notes, and I only had a half a page of notes. I couldn't find them on any other podcast. I was a little unsettled. But that dude was willing to go anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt. I was impressed.
I wanted to know if ejaculation was considered an explosive movement. An involuntary explosive movement.
Yeah, I want to say there's some sort of reflex associated with it. I can't remember.
It's such a weird phenomenon, the ejaculation.
I think there's a way to test for it. Like if you have issues with ejaculation, I think there's a way to test the reflex for it or something. I can't remember. There's other things you do involuntarily, right? Like breathe and digest food and just there's a bunch of shit you do. But this thing you kind of have to I guess you could have a nocturnal emission.
but it's
Yeah,
kind
you
of
gotta prime the pump a
involuntary.
little bit.
But you got to get it. It's like a lawnmower. You got to start it.
Yeah,
You
gotta
know what I
prime the
mean?
pump.
You gotta pull the string a few times. I heard a rumor that ejaculate at 26 miles an hour. Yeah, I used to like those numbers and stuff around it when I was in high school too. Brandon Waddell, not Waddle. Brandon Waddell. I know how to say your name. Fucking try to correct me. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm starting to get text messages from Matt Souza again. That means he's come up for air from his marriage. That's kind of cool.
Super exciting. Looks like a great party.
Connor Murphy tomorrow. He is I think he was on the L1 training staff. He might still be, but he's a trainer to the Stars, and now cool ass dude, super cute guy. Heidi, you'll really like Connor. What?
He's got like an 8-pack abs.
Yeah, he's super cute. And then the guy who's not so cute, who I just actually saw wrestling a little bit on the floor at ADCC at 10 a.m. It looks like we have Devin Lorette, second greatest arm wrestler who ever lived. So tomorrow morning is gonna be fun. And I don't think we have anyone tomorrow night. Nope. All right. Caleb, thank you. I'm going to Los Gatos with my homeboy Greg Glassman now. That should be fun.
Nice.
And he just texted me and said he's coming by to pick me